Hey there, welcome to another video. In this video we're gonna go over the new stat tool that has been released about a week or two ago now on Pro, but it could be actually very helpful for newer players. It's still in development and they still have to work things through because it's not optimal for everybody yet, but I'm gonna go over this as we go. So when you go to Pro, which is mainly the main site for the add-ons in the game that you would be using and downloading from, there's still this card here with the recent use of the stat calculator. Now in the future, as this video gets older, this is probably going to disappear here. So you're going to find the stat calculator here as well in the top banner. Once we're there, it's going to be in Russian by default, the classes, so you're going to have to translate it with your browser to English, and then we can select the class that you play as. Now here's a disclaimer. It's not an optimal tool for classes that require supremacy to use, such as warriors, priests, summoners, and so on. So other classes that are not supremacy dependent, this tool will be probably better for you to use rather than a class that needs supremacy, because the tool doesn't know about that and simply disregards supremacy in most cases. In our example, we're gonna go with the Paladin because the Paladin is not supremacy dependent, right? Supremacy is not a very good or good at all stat for the Paladin. So we'll go with the Paladin here. Let me switch our class as well to the Paladin. So what supremacy does for a Paladin is it increases physical damage. It increases holy damage. Well, it adds holy damage for every time you deal physical damage. We have no supremacy right now, so we don't know how much that is. But if we take a supremacy ruby, we'll see that 40 supremacy adds 2.4 holy damage for every time we deal physical damage, which really isn't that much since half of our damage toolkit exists out of holy damage, so it's not gonna work on all of those abilities that deal holy damage, only works on the physical abilities, and from those physical abilities you only get 2.4% holy damage for 40 stats, whereas supremacy gives us only 0.05% increase per stat with its 40 stats, so we get 2% damage per 40 stats, while supremacy is giving us 2.4, but it's only holy damage, so it's even less efficient than proficiency, which makes it a horrible stat. So Paladin doesn't need supremacy, so we'll go with the Paladin here. I'm doing this on my reincarnation because my reincarnations are the only ones that don't have tier 3 gear, as we currently are still in 13.1. Tier 3 gear still has no ability to change stats. Now as we go into 14.0, this tool will become more viable and relevant because you'll be able to change your stats even on tier 3 gear. So more people will be able to make use of the tool rather than now. But for those that are new to the game and have no tier 3 or have no means on getting tier 3 gear, you'll be able to fully utilize this tool because you'll be able to change your stats on the go. Now how it works, this tool thing, is that the first thing you gotta tick on or off is whether you're able or willing to redistribute your base points. Your base stats are basically the same amount of stats that you can reset every time. And then you fully have access to allocate as you wish on your base stats. In the beginning, when you're the first time playing, you're gonna have 100 in proficiency and 100 in vitality. So just put your mouse on there and see if it says base 100, and that means you've never reset them before. For people that are from playing free to play and you have the fountain of water, I believe, you'll be able to reset your stats on the go for free with your goblin banker, because of the cow ship item you've bought before, so it should be no problem to reset your stats, so you should always have this on. But for people playing pay to play, you have to pay gold every time you want to reset your stats, so you might want to consider whether you are willing to do that or not. Well, in my case, I will redistribute the stats as to show you guys how it exactly works. So for now, I'm gonna put them as I always put them, so that I can do the rest perfectly fine. The next thing they're gonna ask is the base value. Now the base value is the stats that I've just shown. So we got 190, 100. So we're gonna do 190 and 100. So you basically just tell the tool what you currently have, and the tool needs to know exactly where they are coming from. So we got 290 stats from base value distributed like proficiency, determination, brutality. Then it needs to know where we have stats coming from rubies. Now these come from rubies from your talent tree and also from rubies from your spark tree. So when we look at the rubies coming from our stats, we see that we get 90 from your proficiency, which is probably from our rubies here. Then we have 35 from our determination. So this is coming from our spark tree, which is 20 from the base ones, it's 5 from the big one, and then another 10 from massacre, totally 35. So that's from this. And brutality has another 35 also from the spark ruby there. We get luck also. It says effect bonus. Now the game has a bad translation here, but it's actually from the ruby, from your guild rubies. If you look at the progress, you'll see here luck, which is something that everybody in your guild gets, and mostly your guild will have that too, so make sure to check that out. And then supremacy, we have 120, which is coming from our rubies as well. And that's everything we have. So we gotta tell the tool that these rubies are coming from there. So it's 90, 35, 35. So it's 90, 35, 35. Now I do wish they would allow your tabbing go right way as well, but it goes down way, so you'd have to check everything for each stat separately, which we could do, but I'm gonna explain it like this for now because I find it easier for you to understand that way, so we can go over one thing at a time. Luck has 40, and then domination, which is supremacy, which has 120. Then it wants to know how many stats we're getting from our equipment, so you just look at your you put your mouse on it and it says equipment bonus, that's what you want to put in there. So that's 1533 here. It's nothing from our determination right now, and roof brutality gets 793. And that's about it. And then bonus from effects is from stats that you are getting extra from potions and buffs. In determination we get 140, that is 40 from a potion we have running right now for another hour. And the 100 comes from my order, probably. Yep, there we go. So those are effects bonuses. So we'll do determination 140. And we'll do... and that's it, basically. We have no other potions active right now. But so as you have more potions on, you'll probably have to adjust this. And when you've given in all the stats here, it's going to make a calculation for you and tell you what stats you should be running to optimally deal damage instead. Now, like I said, this could be biased because it does not know anything for supremacy. They could make that, but it's probably in development. Now luck is also not really helpful because it's giving this random number 206. While it's very hard to get to that specific number, you just have to be able to go there as close as possible. A bit like playing with it's a bit like playing petanque. You have to throw your ball as close to the ball. You have to kind of get your stat as close to the stat that is recommended to get there. So 206 luck. I know we're gonna get a lot of luck from our weapons, so we'll do that. So we're only 50 away, I mean 30 something, so that's alright, we'll leave that as it is. Then our supremacy is as low as it can be, that's also good. And then we need to simply fix our base stats, so it's basically 707 for the two of those, so we'll get the proficiency ones and swap them over to determination. There we go. So that's as close as we can get to these stats, as you can see. Now the small difference we have in determination is the difference that comes from the luck that we didn't manage to get in there, but everything else is as good as perfectly fine. We're gonna go to Trial of Blood to try this because that's the most consistent way to test it, because I did try some dungeons, but you're getting different dungeons all the time, and the different dungeons have different mechanics, which is which is changing the DPS output you're doing overall at the end of the dungeon, because there's certain mechanics sometimes that is fucking it up for you to test. But so for testing purposes, I'm showing you it like this. Alright, so the result of the first fight is 205k DPS. And I died, it's already out. Right, so not sure how I survived that part, but as you can see, our DPS right now is 230k. We've got 18 stacks on the second one, which is going to influence our DPS for the rest of the trial, so I'm gonna have to make sure that next test I do is also going to have about 18 stacks. So the second wave got us to 225k DPS. Right, so with the buff active now from the second wave, we now have 381k DPS for the third trial. And our time ran out. Let's see here. So the fourth one gave us a 402k DPS. Now let's assume that we are a new player and that we have no idea about our stats and we'll have something completely random. Efficiency, like most people that are done leveling, they're gonna have something like with low brutality, right? So we're going to imitate just that. Simply no brutality, maybe. Or a little bit. So it's not too obvious. Something like equal proficiency and determination, yeah? And probably also no luck, because people are not going to be sure about luck, so we'll get rid of that as well. Something like this, people are going to have to be running probably when they end up just coming out of the new zone and shit. Maybe some more brutality, like so. That's random enough. Oof, that took longer than it should have, but our DPS here is about 196k I see for the second attempt with these shitty stats. Right, so I failed to get the same amount of stacks here, which is bad for testing because we want that equal. This time we got DPS of 233, 228, which is not that far off from our first attempt with the stat tool stats. This attempt as well is giving us the same result, 224k. So far the DPS has been really minimal in difference. There we go, we got our 18 stacks here. And we have a DPS of 227. Which is more than the stat tools I had. And then third wave gave us 427k, whereas we had 381 before. So it's starting to look very weird. So we're getting less performance with the stat tool than we're getting with the random stats we just assigned. So, and it's not like it's that much of a difference. We don't have anything random with luck or supremacy stuff. It's purely base stats ratio that changed. So we might have a better outcome here than the stat tool actually has. Alright, then the fourth trial gave us a 408k DPS, whereas the other one gave us 402k DPS. So I guess that's where we end up the test here, because that's all I can get. But as you can see, the DPS difference is very minimal, yet it's always the random stats that came on top of the stat tool. So the stat tool is not giving the optimal perfect stats that one should get, especially when it's already on a class that supremacy doesn't matter on what it's already not doing on the stat tool. The ratio definitely is wrong from the stat tool, as this random ratio is giving better results than the stat tool is giving. So with that, we're gonna end up the review of the stat tool and say it's not as good as it is, but it's alright for people that are completely lost, like complete new players that are lost in the game and they're not sure what to do with the stats. The stat tool could help you out. Now, it's still in development as well. This could still become better. It just leaves too much to imagination right now, such as what if new players have stuff in conviction or swiftness. This stat tool doesn't ask about those stats where they are, right? So the stat tool is just going to ignore the fact that you have those stats. It's going to give you a ratio that has less amount of stats in total than that you actually have access to, because you're not telling that to the program. Neither is the program telling you that it needs to know all your stats here. It just asks you these stats, and then it gives you the perfect ratio for these stats. But if you have anything lost in swiftness or conviction, you know, it's not going to know about it, and you will not be able to make a full assessment of it. So the tool is kind of flawed at the time of the video. Now, I would still say bookmark the stat tool so that you'll be able to help other players out with it. And I'm sure that the tool will improve at some point, so it might become useful then. As for now, I would say it's not, because it's not even helpful to any supremacy class. So like basically almost half of all the classes in the game are already not able to use this tool because it's just ignoring your supremacy. So that's it for the stat tool, guys. I hope this was helpful. Hope you guys learned something new again. See you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Have a good evening. Goodbye.